of the founders of Remnant Warriors. Hey, hey, how's everybody doing this evening? Hi, Women Who War. I miss you guys so much. I haven't seen you in so long. I am coming on tonight to have an amazing, amazing interview with a dear friend. And I'm so happy that you guys are on to share with us. So I am Viva Lewis. Hey again, miss you guys. And I want to go ahead and tell you, of course, again, this is Domestic Violence Month, the month of October. And we are still going in and sharing domestic violence survivors. We're sharing their stories. We definitely want you to come on. And listen. And if you're in a situation like that, so you can hear how you can get out or your steps. If you know someone that's in a situation like that, you can reach out to the proper people to help them. Any of those things, right? Or if you're a survivor yourself, to know that you are not alone. You are not alone. There are so many survivors out there, male and female, and I'm sure you found that out last week. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and let you know that we are still in partnership with Safe Alliance. Okay. And so there is a give button that's going to be in the description box, and I'm sure it's going to be coming up in comments as well. Give whatever the Lord leads on your heart to give to Safe Alliance, and we will talk a little more about that. Okay, so now I want to welcome my guest on. Let me read this bio, y'all. I am excited to bring this guest on. She is a dear, dear, dear friend. We grew up together. We sang on the choir together. We marched on the band together. We cheered together. We spent the night at each other's houses. Her mom did my hair. I mean, we grew up together. And it is amazing that it's around clock. We went to high school together, and now we work together at a high school. So I want to introduce you to Miss Carla Isaac. And Carla is a native of Lynchburg, South Carolina, and a mom to her 22-year-old son, Samuel. She earned her bachelor's degree. It's a bachelor's of art from Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Girl, I hope I said that right. Where she majored in music performance as a classically trained vocalist. And y'all, she could sing. Oh my God, she could sing. She has over 18 years of experience working as a commercial television actor and radio announcer in Florence, South Carolina, Virginia Beach, Virginia, and the City College of New York in Spanish Harlem. Carla advocates for students and families as a site coordinator for communities and schools at West Charlotte High School. She's not only passionate about serving students and families, she is especially passionate about all things food. Carla is the owner and creative energy behind Sugar Pearls and a vlogger showcasing recipes from her kitchen on her Facebook channel, Sugar Pearl Studio Kitchen Live. Welcome, Carla.
Oh my gosh. Hi, boo. Hey, y'all. Wow. This is awesome. I'm excited. Thank you so much for
You're
the
welcome.
introduction. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Remnant Warriors. Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to come. Minister Adrian Young, thank you so much. Love everything that you are and the amazing work that you do with this organization. I'm so excited for you all and your partnership that you have going on with Safe Alliance. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sitting here thinking like, oh my God, we grew up together. We did a lot of things together, but we
Hmm.
also experienced domestic violence. Both of us are domestic
Yeah.
violence survivors. Is that not crazy?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, so we go way back to like 1989, 88, something like that. Like, yeah. And hey, Ashley, hey, everybody. Thank you so much. But yeah, it is amazing. It's amazing and sad because
Hmm.
although this is this was a path that we took at one point.
Yeah.
This is the path of so many, and women, and I'll say that because we are women, and most of
Right.
us watching today are women, but we also know that men too can be victims of domestic or intimate partner violence or abuse. So we don't want to, just skate over that fact, but understand that right now, like, we here for each other as sisters, and I love it.
Right. Right. So I'm excited. Go ahead and share your story, girl. I'm not going to even ask questions. Just share your story.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? I think about my story in so many ways when I'm really getting to a point just now. And at the point where um I had been going through this turmoil, um I really just I I was struggling. I was learning myself, figuring myself out.
Mhm.
At the time I got married, I was 35 years old. I was afraid to die alone and miserable. And oh my God, I'm going to die in my house and nobody is going to know when to find me. Like, went through all of that whole
Mhm.
crisis thing that we do in our heads. And I took that feeling into almost every relationship that I had been in particular this marriage that I got into, the marriage that I was in. Um, this man was a friend of our family. He and my brother graduated high school together. They were great friends all through high school. I think even like middle school, probably too.
Mhm.
So they had like a friendship pre Carla, okay? BC, as
Wow.
I like to say, before Carla, okay? Nothing to do with me. But we met and linked up and had things in common, and I thought he was fly, and he thought so. I was too, and we just made this connection, and it just seemed magical, and we dated, and he doted on me and all of this. So this was not
Wow.
like some, you see it coming out of the gate. Okay. So this came across. He was a friend of our family. Anyone who knows my mom knows she is gangster. And
Miss Answer, don't
but
say.
when she hears the story now, she's like, I know darn well, like, he knows me. And I'm like, calm down. Like, that was 6 years ago. I'm good. You need to relax. And that's why I can't tell him nothing, child. But yeah, the unfortunate day, and it's always so appropriate that at the time that happened, I think it was around September. So coming up to
Mhm.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month is always like kind of it used to be a trigger for me. October
Wow.
was like coming up is like, oh, I had such anxiety because I knew it's like I remember, you know, him storming in the room and taking my laptop off my lap and throwing it to the ground and back throwing me in the closet and down the stairs. I remember all of that. So I have had to train myself with prayer and just positive vibes in my space so that I'm not triggered when October comes around.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm so grateful. So that day, Officer Guy um was called to the house. So my abuser called 911 because this is what an abuser will do. I hope I'm not going too fast, but we can get caught in stories and sequences like for hours and hours, but I want to condense it a little bit for you. Um, but I think that that day for me now is I wouldn't change a thing. I would not
Wow.
change a thing. The only thing that I could think at that moment as I was, and this was just before I went tumbling down the stairs, the only thing I could think was, don't fight back. Don't fight back. Stay alive. Stay alive so you can get out. And as long as you can get out, you can get what you need. That was all I cared about. So it was like having an out of body experience. If you've
Mm,
ever have had one. If not, don't worry. When you do, you will know it. It was like I could see myself being tossed like a rag doll from place to place and like trying to walk away and still being pulled back in, and it's like um but I'm to a place now where it's like, no, count it all a blessing.
mhm.
Count it all a blessing. I won't dismiss that for a minute because Officer Guy met me that day, and I mentioned him a short time earlier, but he was one of the officers that showed up that day for me. And it's so coincidental that a year ago he called me. I forgot. I don't know if I told you, Beaver.
No.
He called me on my cell phone number don't change. He called me on the cell phone. He was like, "Yeah, is this?" And he called me by my married name. Just wanted to know how you were doing. I'm going through my cases, making sure that I close everything that was left open. I was like, "Well, I wanted to let you know that I left, and
Mm,
I am
mm.
doing well. I'm living in my own place." And I said, I don't remember your name from that day. I said, so it was nothing but God that had you call me. And I'm so glad because I get to tell you thank you for saving my life.
Wow.
It was so, I could hear him smiling through the phone.
Wow.
And I, my heart is so full when I think about Officer Guy. I have no idea what his first name is. I just know that, that day he was my angel and he gave me two numbers. One was to the magistrate's office, the second was the Hope line for Safe Alliance. He said,
Wow.
get your restraining order first. And after you get that in order, he said, I want you to call this number and I want you to, well, they didn't have an opening for like a week or so. Our best friend, Chad G, was the
Mhm.
paid for my hotel room. Chad went to high school with us, y'all.
Yeah.
And yeah,
He done help both of us out.
honey. So he
Wow.
was like, no problem. You said, you're going to stay in this hotel room. And I continued to do that and go to school and work. I was working as a long-term substitute at an elementary school. And the weird thing about it is that when I was staying at Safe Alliance, one of the, so there were a set of twins that we had at the school, second grade. One was in my class. His mom, and his older sister were also staying at the shelter. So
Mm,
we would see each other when we went home and then at school. And it was like, I mean, he would never mention a thing, it was just, hey, Miss G, when we were at the shelter, we practiced our reading, and a second grader that kept me
mm.
going because my dad was like, "Oh no, you coming home?" And I was like, "Mm-mm, that baby needs me. I gotta go to work. Got to." So,
Wow.
in a nutshell, that's my story. Now, if you want me to unpack it some more, then go for it, please. I'm ready.
Well, I can't see the comments, so I'm looking now to see if I can see some
Hey,
comments
y'all.
of
Ashley
anyone.
Ford said, "Hey, Viva."
Hey, Ashley. If I know one of the questions I did want to ask, actually it was two. One of the questions I wanted to ask is what made it easy for you? I know in my situation it was hard for me to get away. And
Mhm.
I kept going back and kept going back and kept going back and kept going back because I was secluded from everyone that cared about me. Like he made sure of that. Like, let me go ahead and pull her away from everyone. Let me cause a wedge between her and everyone that cares for her. So it was harder for me to leave for a very
Yeah.
long time. But for 2 years, it was hard for me to leave. What was your final, if you will, straw that broke the camel's back that helped you navigate to freedom from out of that bondage?
Mm. I'm so glad you asked me that question because y'all probably sitting here and you're looking at my little cute pillows from TJ Maxx and my little candle back there in the background burning, honey. And you just think, oh gosh, that girl, oh, she's living the life. Look at her. Honey, let me tell you. So the thing that really, really got me to the point because I went back. I did.
I remember.
So when I left Safe Alliance, I got an apartment, lived here for, several months went by. A friend of his called me and was like, "Did you know he had a stroke?" And I was like, "No, my brother called me." Again, he and my brother. And I was like, "What?" So come to find out, I guess maybe he just had, you know, gas or something, child. He in the hospital. I mean, but this is how you get roped back in, right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, oh my God, he's gonna die, and maybe, we can give it a shot one more time. So we tried, and we tried the dating thing and all of that. But it just it was still there. I was still living in my place. Like he was not staying here, anything like
Mhm.
that. I really, really tried. But the thing that got me was so he wanted to take a trip. Okay, great. We can take a trip. Wanted to take a trip. At the time, my sister and her family and kids were all in Seattle, Washington. So he said, well, I was thinking we could just take a flight to Seattle and stay there over the Christmas holiday. Okay.
Mhm.
So, really nice. We're going the Space Needle that spins around. We're having dinner and oh, it's so lovely. It's wonderful.
Honeymoon phase.
Yes, honey. Honey moon. All right. So on the plane ride back, everything was fine. Everything was fine the whole trip. No arguments, no nothing. On the plane ride back, he asked about getting back together. Okay. And he had already been kind of pushing it and pushing it.
Mhm.
And I said, the only thing that I just can't get over because there was so much that was still that I was dealing with. I
Mhm.
said, I can't get over boom. And I told him what it was. And I'm gonna tell you what it was. So what it was when we earlier in the marriage, I have an autistic son. And sometimes he has these violent outbursts. He has other disabilities, needs that come along
Mhm.
with it. Okay. So he was acting up one day. One day, the husband goes upstairs, grabs my son. Son ends up falling on the futon in his room and cracking his little shoulder bone. So he had to walk with a little, I still got pictures of it, with a little arm in a sling and everything. And I covered for the husband because you got to go to the hospital. So when
Mhm.
the doctor sees that, he's like, how did this happen again? So I'm like, oh, he was just, jumping and fell and yada, yada, yada. I still to this day don't think he believed me. Anyway, I reminded on that plane ride, reminded the spouse of that.
Mhm.
His response was, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember. If we could excuse things that people just don't remember, because you all of a sudden got selective amnesia, you know,
Mhm.
the fact is, um, and I said on the plane, I said, either you are lying to me or that was so insignificant to you that it really, really doesn't matter. And you probably don't remember. I said, and if
Wow.
that's the case, then either way, we are done. So when we get back and we get this Uber to go back to the place, I will get my bags and we won't speak again. And since that day, that was New Year's Eve, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we haven't spoken. Yeah.
Wow.
But that did
Yeah,
it for me.
it was that it's something about the kids. It's something about the kids. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but as you were talking, it took me back to when I finally said enough was enough, was when he tried to attack me in front of my girls.
Mm.
Something rises up in you. I know it did for me. Like, wait a minute, hold up. Now I can beat your fist up with my face all day. That's what I thought in my mind. I can beat your fist up with my face all day, but you're not gonna do this in front of my kids. And that was the first time I decided, okay, yeah, I'm gonna fight back. I'm gonna fight back. And I think what people fail to realize is in abusive relationships, they don't come out automatically beating you up. It doesn't happen
Mm-mm.
that way. They whine you and they dine you and they make you feel like the most beautiful person in the world, like for an extended period of time until they gain all of your trust.
Yeah.
And once they gain your trust, and when that first, sometimes it's a push, sometimes it's a choke, sometimes it's verbal, but it starts out slow. And then it starts just building up and building up and building up until finally they decide, hey, let me just go ahead and slap you or punch you or whatever.
Yeah.
And by that time, you're so stuck there, you don't know what to do. You know what? My hands go out. I clap my hands for women who say, "Oh, he hit me one time and I was out the door." You know what? Kudos to you, because you're looking at two very, very strong women. I remember, and I'm going to be so transparent. I remember one of I grew up in foster homes, and you probably remember this foster sister. She called me and she said, "So and so hit me," who was her husband. I drove to Columbia at the time. I was living in Sumter. I drove to Columbia to help her beat him down because I was that strong chick.
Mm.
And then looked at her like, how dare you allow him to put his hands on you? I would never. I would never. You need to be so very careful of what you say you would never do, or to even judge somebody else and what they're going through. Because if you don't know it, if you never walked in their shoes, just shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
it starts it's so funny, because most of the women that I know, I didn't grow up in a household like that. My father is very loving. If
yeah.
anything, my mom is like the bully, but no, I'm just kidding. She's not a bully. But she's like, she's gangster. My dad is more doting and loving and all of that. But yeah, it starts out completely, you know, unexpected. I was in a space when I met my spouse. I wasn't working. I had this
Mm-hmm.
autistic son with other disabilities, mental retardation, and violent outbursts and echolalia. He couldn't really be understood when he spoke, and it was hard. So
Yeah.
I stayed because I had Metro School where my son was that catered to his needs and kids like him. But it just got so hard, and so I'm not working, so I've got to depend on who for money. hmm And even
Mm-hmm.
then, you've got somebody making $75,000 a year. You've got somebody maybe getting $15,000 in their kids' SSI. You know, Sometimes you might have to ask for money for personal supplies and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
honey, that was uh-uh. So it started like that. And it's like, okay, if I leave, where am I go? I can't tell my mom and dad this, like
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that they would be more than willing if only they had an inkling. But, I kind of created some walls because I was trying to keep it quiet. And then the insecurities, um things that I was doing with my church, and the praise and accolades that I was receiving really started to drive away. And I wasn't like thriving off of it, but he was very hungry for attention. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times when he didn't receive it, um he lashed out. So it came out in other ways. We did not sleep together for a long, long time. When we first got married, weeks turned into months. we would not have sex. That is not okay. Sex is a very healthy part of a marriage. And when someone is withholding it because they're trying to control you, that
Hmm.
is a problem. That is a problem. So, sleeping months downstairs, on the couch, not coming to bed, and then when you ask,
Wow.
oh, because my knees hurt when I climb the stairs. Like, really? So, what then happened, that started to play on my mental and emotional, so now I'm not desirable. What's wrong with me? He doesn't want
Hmm.
to sleep with me, So then you start to fall. So before you think, oh, that could never happen, I never said never, but I'm not surprised it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, it really can. Um, I was actually, I had just left law enforcement. So I had just left law enforcement. So all of the police officers knew me, knew my name, knew everything. Met him, was just, got out of a divorce. Come on, y'all. I met him in the club. I'm in the club at a pajama party. Met him at the club. I'm already vulnerable because I'm going, the divorce is final. Met him. He was like this knight in shining armor. And as the time progressed, I'll never forget, he said, the only reason any man would ever want you is because all three of your kids have the same father. And in my mind, I was like, he might be right. So the same thing with you. Of course, there was, and let me preface this. No, we ain't supposed to be having sex before marriage. So don't y'all church folk be up here judging me. Yes, I was out there getting it on. This was younger. So the sex was withheld, of course. Um, the money was withheld. Um, there was even a point in time where I sat on my bathroom floor because if it was that time of the month, I had to show him the maxi pad. If I used the bathroom, I had to show him. I could not decide what to wear. I could not decide how to do my hair. I could not decide, so I'm going through all of this and hiding it from my daughters. So I'm hiding it because he is just this wonderful person around my daughters. But when my daughters were gone with their dad, the true him came out. And I remember sitting on my bathroom floor one day wanting to commit suicide. And I sat on that floor. I'll never forget it. I was like, you know what? Nobody is going to understand it. And I'm embarrassed. I'm so ashamed because I'm the strong girl. So I'm so ashamed. I can't share this story with anyone. I'm just going to kill myself. That'd be the best thing. I could just kill myself. My ex-husband can take care of the kids. I'm good. And as I'm sitting on the floor, I heard this voice. Now, mind you, I'm not in the church. I'm not praying. I'm not doing anything. I'm out there doing everything I'm big and bad enough to do because I'm running from God. I sat on that bathroom floor and I heard this voice said, no, you're not going to die. You're going to live. You're not going to die. You're going to live. And all I could see was just the faces of my three daughters, the faces of my three daughters. And so I got up and was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but I'm going to live. And I'll never forget the time that he beat me down so bad. And my girlfriend came to the house and she called the cops. Now, here it is, the cops that I worked with when I left law enforcement are now coming to me to my aid. That was embarrassing. And one police officer, I never forget her, Debbie, she's dead now. She said, and they called me by my middle name. She said, Shalik, all you got to do is say the word. We see the marks on you. All you have to do is say the word. And I was like, Debbie, no, he didn't do it. When I tell you they were pissed because they was like, all you have to do is say the word. Why are you defending him? This is not your husband. This is not even who you are. All you have to do is say the word. And I still defended him. I still defended him.
Yeah,
Yeah. And, and,
yeah,
and that's what we need other people to know. No matter how strong you are, there come and sometimes we don't understand, why do women defend the abuser or why do men defend the abuser? I don't know what it is that's in the back of our head. It's like, no, because I don't want him to lose. I don't want him to go to jail. It's another black, he's a black man. I don't want another black man in jail. I don't want him to lose this. I don't want him to lose his job. I was more concerned about what he was going to lose and what was about him than I was about my own safety.
Yeah. Often, survivors, or even, if they have not survived, those women, thank you, May Francis. Um, it's it's amazing how we carry so much. We carry the shame, we carry the secret, we carry the guilt, um, and we leave nothing for the assailant. And I even say, when I tell my story now, I don't tell my story to hurt him. It ain't about him. It used to
Mm-hmm.
be. It used to be. I couldn't wait to tell my story, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Yet,
Anybody
yet
who listens.
something was saying, because if you telling it out of bitterness, if you telling it out of anger, somebody's not gonna get your message. So now
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I can tell the story with a free heart and pure intentions, not to hurt
Mm-hmm.
him, but to free myself
Mm-hmm.
and someone else. Hopefully, it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer about him.
Mm-mm.
Um, yeah, I'm at that point now, and I'm okay with it. But you're always gonna have uh someone who's, you know, trying to
Mm-hmm.
it,
Always.
hush hush, because it exposes not only something about you, but sometimes it exposes something about the other person.
And that's true. And that's true. What can we share with our sisters? And I was sitting here thinking as we were sharing just tidbits of our story. Um, After the situation with that, I was able to become a counselor in Charleston because this happened in Charleston. So just like we have Safe Alliance, we have something in Charleston called My Sister's House. It's the same as Safe Alliance. And I think there's a My Sister's House here in Charlotte too, if I'm not mistaken. But, after lots and lots of therapy and all of that, I became a counselor at a battered women's shelter. What I find, and even in the counseling aspect, is if we're not careful and we don't pay attention to the red flags that we already know, sometimes we wind right back up into another abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So before I say anything, my question to you is, how do you stay steadfast on those red flags without thinking, okay, maybe I'm just being over anxious, or maybe I'm being too judgmental, or maybe I'm being, how do you navigate through that for you to stay and to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe and you're not going or getting back into another abusive relationship?
That's a great question. I So I've always kind of had like a discerning spirit when it came to people. And I think now, because I'm at a place in my life where I do have some freedom and I do have like some self-love and some joy, it's really allowed me to be even more discerning because
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of shed the weight of the mess. Not only with that past relationship, that was a big weight, but I also had some weight that I had to shed too. So when I
Right.
did that, it kind of allowed me to see a little bit clearer. um I'm not too big on like the dating thing right now. I'm okay, really, I am. I love love. I love love. I love relationships. I love being in love. But right now, I think I'm just loving being more in love with myself. Um, and I'm okay with that. I do see men that I find extremely attractive, but then, something will nudge me like, that might be a quality that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really work with your energy. that might be a quality that no, he might see. And I hate to like label people, but I
Right.
do have to kind of put little put them away in little file cabinets in my head and be like, nah, that wasn't a good mix for you before. And you want to do that without cutting you off from something good that could be good for you. But
Hmm.
I think if it's good for me, then it'll show itself in the right way.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. I think that was one of my things too. And I really want to place emphasis on this. My situation was a little different. I got out of one abusive relationship and found myself back into another one, but this one wasn't physical, it was more emotional and verbal and financial. I control everything. I i'm the man and you're the woman, and woman is supposed to be seen and not heard. And the verbal, the verbal and emotional abuse was just horrible, where the family members were even being abusive and saying things that should not have been said. And abuse to one of my daughters, throwing her up the stairs, and
Mhm.
abuse to my dog, my little 5 pound little dog,
Mhm.
just throwing him all over the place. And at that time, because I have to cover this, at that time, church folks said, just pray it off of them, stay with them, and just pray about it, even though the abuse was still going on, you
Mhm.
know, because God hates divorce, God hates whatever, and so what can we say nicely to those who are religious? I didn't say relationship, I said religious, um, who will tell a woman who has shared, because it's hard to share anyway, who
Mhm.
would tell someone who has shared, my husband hit me, excuse me, my husband said this to me, my husband did this to my child, who has shared this information, which is very, very hard to do. What do we say to, well, two people? What do we say to those people who immediately tell them, just pray about it and hang in there because God hates divorce?
Mhm.
And then what do we say to those women who have been told to do that when they cried out for help?
Mhm. Mm. That's you said stay at nice.
Yeah,
You
you gotta
said
be nice.
you said I gotta be nice. I had an old deacon that said, "I'm gonna take off my glasses to say," and you know when he took off his glasses, he was about to go in sugar. Let me tell you something. Slave masters used the Bible to control the enslaved people as well. Okay, all up and through the Bible,
Hmm.
honor your masters. That's what you're supposed to do. And there's probably a scripture for everybody's point of view because you're gonna find what it is that you're trying to convey. Okay, so enough of that. For people that are just admonishing you to stay in it and stick it out, ask them to take your place for a week. Ask them to take your place. Put up with the mental, emotional, verbal abuse, the isolation, the economic abuse, the control, the nitpicking, the throwing you around, and tell them to take your place for a week.
Hmm.
And if they're not
Hmm.
willing or can't do that, you know what? You need to cut off all communication and move on. Some people, and I think we get into that. I think that as people who have endured some kind of abuse, we sometimes we tell people our story or we cry out to people because um two things. We want somebody to convince us to leave, or
Hmm.
we want somebody to convince us to stay.
Yep.
Ain't but two.
Yep.
Either you want somebody to tell you what, because it's about what you want and what you can control at that moment. And okay, well, if I leave, I'm gonna have to find a new school for my kids, and how I'm gonna do that if I can't get the birth certificates and all of this stuff. Like, it's a lot um
Hmm.
factor in to just leaving a relationship. And I think that's why you have people going back to the relationship, because it's comfortable to, say, okay, well, at least we had a roof over our head, at least we had groceries,
Yep.
you know, kept the lights on, you know. So, we'll justify having certain things in order to um somewhat justify the abuse that we're receiving. And there is no equivalent.
There's none at all. That takes me to, and I remember saying this to someone. Um, yeah, I hear the Bible says that a man is supposed to love his wife like Christ loved the church, right? And my thing is, and I've said this to someone before, you can't love me until you've experienced love with God. Love is a verb, it's not a noun, it's a verb. You cannot love anyone until you've experienced true love with God. You know, the Bible also says that you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, how am I gonna say I love you if I don't love me? And how I'm gonna love me if I don't know me and if I don't experience that love with God, and He is love, you know?
Hmm.
So I've going through the years and being able to sit and really analyze that and not deal with the guilt and the shame of, oh my God, so and so wanted me to stay and pray it through, or oh my God, the church is going to shun me now because I didn't stay and so now I'm divorced. What I want to say to those who have gone through, or those who are going through, or know someone that's going through, I refuse to believe that God wants you to be in a situation where you're somebody's doormat, where you're somebody's punching bag, where you're being belittled. I mean, if he's not doing that to you, what makes you think that it is okay for a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend to be able to do that to you? You're bigger than that and you're better than that and you're worth so much more. Um, but you have to be ready, just like Carla was ready, just like I was ready. You have to get to the point where you're ready, come hell or high water. If I got to stay at Safe Alliance for a month, 2 months, 3 months with my kids so I can have my sanity and have my life, then that's what I'm going to have to do. If I have to stay with a friend or a family member who will allow me to do that, then that's what I'll do. But make sure that you set um, the necessary plan, and definitely call the hotline. So I'm not telling y'all leave your husbands. I ain't telling you to. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying though is if you're going through it, please call the domestic violence hotline. Please speak with Safe Alliance. If you're in another city or town, there's domestic violence hotline numbers there. I think that's the national hotline that's coming across. Call that number so they can lead you to where you need to go. And my advice would be, if you're doing it online, erase your cookies, erase your history online. If you're making a phone call, make sure you erase your phone call. If you're not ready to go yet and you're planning on the necessary steps,
Yeah.
um, it's vital. It's vital because although my children did not see it, they still discerned it. And what I didn't want was for my kids to think that that was normal, to be able to have somebody belittling them or to be in an abusive relationship. And I know as mothers, no one wants that for their children. So how do we break the cycle?
Yeah.
It starts with us. It starts with us.
Yeah, definitely. If there is a cycle to be broken, then it starts, like you said, with us and with that self-awareness. and that self-love. Someone had a question that they sent me, and it was about unpacking um, more about why my former husband called the police on me.
Okay.
So um, I was trying to when that was happening, because I have the bruises. I made sure I took pictures and everything. So when I went to court, I could explain um with evidence. Um, but yeah, he called the police on me. That is what a manipulator will do in order to continue to tell their version of the story, even if they have no evidence to support what they are saying. Sir, you call the police on your wife, but you don't have any marks on you, and she does. Or I see a bruise coming up on her leg now. So that's another manipulation tactic. And there are so many when it comes to, people think that when you talk about domestic violence or intimate partner violence, that you are talking about knockdown, drag outs every single week, black eyes, trying to cover it up with makeup. It's not always that.
Right.
Not always. It shows up in so many different ways, and we have to be able to speak when you're using any tactic or any tool to um make someone act the way you want them to act. That is manipulation. And if
Yep.
you keep it up, that's when it turns into abuse, because now that person, it's like Pavlov's dog. When they hear that bell, they know they're going to get a treat. So if
Mhm.
if I know this is coming, then this is how I should react. So yeah, we have to be very discerning when it comes to looking at tactics of manipulation. They show up in all sorts of ways.
That's good. That's real good. So I'm trying to see, do we have any questions?
I don't know. Can I say something about Safe Alliance while you look at that? I know
Yes.
we don't have a lot of time left in the broadcast, but I do want to say this. Thank you. Yes. So, Safe Alliance was there for me when I needed them. Thank God I didn't have my son with me at this time, but I went there and I just felt like, here I am. I'm working a long-term sub job. I'm trying to finish my master's degree, and I'm doing it all from the shelter. And when I was there with my intake director, she said, well, how long do you think you'll need until you get on your feet and you get out of here? Because we got and she didn't say it like that. I mean, it's just, there's always a need for other women to get a bed, for
Mhm.
themselves or their kids. And so I said, give me 2 months. Just give me 2 months and I think I'll be on my feet. I'll have an apartment. Well, 2 months was what I needed. I made sure that when I was there at Safe Alliance, I don't know if they still do this, but we had chores. So you could either choose to work in the kitchenette, or you could clean or sweep, like you would have a chore every week. I don't know if they do that anymore, but that gave you some, not only accountability, but it kept you from thinking about your own situation so
Right.
much. So if you went to therapy, if you went to group therapy, if you did your individual therapy, if you did yoga, if you did your chores, then your day was so full that you didn't have time to feel sorry for yourself. You didn't have time. So I'm so grateful that Safe Alliance gave me that. I had to hustle. I had to figure it out and make this situation work for the best. So Safe Alliance was there for me, and they're there for so many women. Please call the
They are.
hotline to get the help you need.
They are. And I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's not the way that they have the rooms and I call them little small miniature apartments, the little dorm rooms, the way that they have.
It's like being in college. It's a
Yeah.
suite. So I shared a room. I had a roommate. Me and this woman were about the same age. Neither one of us had kids, so we could all share the suite. You bought your food, y'all took turns cooking, or however you wanted to split it up. But yeah, I had this horrific image in my mind of what it would
Mhm.
be like to stay in a women's shelter. And when I got um to that center, I was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
this is amazing. It was
yeah,
absolutely beautiful. A courtyard, hot meal every night. Um, you couldn't ask for more for somebody that was in that situation that could not see a way out.
yeah. So please, again, the Domestic Violence National Hotline is still scrolling, and so is Safe Alliance. So again, Remnant Warriors Global is in partnership with Safe Alliance, and there's a give button that should be in the comments if you want to give. Definitely do that. Safe Alliance will be greatly appreciative of it. Women like Carla and a lot of people that you've already heard interviews on throughout the month have all been able to use Safe Alliance for their, for their safety. And I'm just so glad that it's around. I'm so glad that it's around. We want to thank y'all so much for allowing us to share a tidbit of our story. We were not going to try to get the tissue and all that stuff out. So we wrapped it in a little bit because it could take forever to share um, some of the experiences that we've experienced. But Carla, I want to thank you so much. One, for coming on and sharing your story, because I know that's hard.
Yeah, it's not hard anymore. It used to be because I was embarrassed and I was ashamed, but
Mhm.
my mom always said, she said, honey, you ain't the first and you ain't gonna be the last, unfortunately.
Mama Ella
Unfortunately.
certified. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
so I honor who I am. I tell my story to free myself and others. And I'm so grateful that y'all gave me the time to do that tonight. So thank you.
Thank y'all so very much. We love you guys. I think there's
What
some more
started
comments. Oh, thank you, Nakia. We love you.
what started as a small online prayer group turned into a worldwide phenomenon. We are Remnant Warriors Global Incorporated. Our calling is raising the next generation, equipping future leaders, mentoring God's daughters, navigating the scriptures, activating spiritual gifts, nurturing the soul, and training warriors. Over 7,000 members online in 12 countries, changing lives one post, one prayer, one Bible